Good morning. I turned on Facebook this morning. I got a See Your Memories, a picture I took last year of the last of 5 pounds of meatballs going into the oven so that I could get this all started last year. Okay, so I must have made them, dropped them in a Ziploc, thrown them in the freezer so that they would be ready to go when it got closer to Thanksgiving. So today, since it was a year ago, we're going to start with the meatballs. It was a decision that I decided on, just an hour ago. We'll see how this works. I collected everything I needed. I shredded my cheese. I did all of those things that you have to do, get everything together. So, we'll get started on this, and I will show you how I make my meatballs. Not the same way everybody does it, but this is how I do mine. So, in this bowl, I have 5 pounds of Hamburg, and I cannot make any less than that ever, and we end up fighting over the meatballs. But that's all I do, because I've had enough. Alright, so in here, I'm going to add 4 eggs. Okay, that's going to be the part of the binder. You should never crack an egg on the edge of the bowl. You'll get shell inside. Always crack it on a flat surface. So, I spent the morning trying to put this all together because I have no idea of how much I use of anything, because I just put it in there until it looks right, or feels right, or tastes right. So, we're going to try real hard this morning to give you some approximate measurements. I don't know how it's going to come out. Okay, 4 eggs. I shredded my cheese, grated, not shredded. Grated the cheese this morning. I've got about a cup of cheese, and I use either Asiago or Romano. This is Asiago, and I always grate it from fresh. The pre-grated stuff has a coating or something on it to keep it from clumping together in the package, so I try real hard not to use it. Okay, breadcrumbs. Yes, sometimes I cheat and just use the canned ones. And I'm going to use about 3/4 of a cup of breadcrumbs. You can always add more. If it's too dry, you can always add another egg. Okay. Parsley flakes. A good handful. Crush them up. Drop them in the bowl. Salt. Here's the problem. I do not know how much salt I use. Okay? The kids always tell me I don't put enough salt. But because I have cheese and everything else in there, and anyway, it's easier to add salt at the table, although you shouldn't have to, than it is to take away salt. So, I would say for 5 pounds of meat, I probably use about 4 or 5 teaspoons. Kosher salt, use it for everything. Alright. Black pepper. I don't know why I'm doing that. Again. I have no idea how much that is. It's a handful. In it goes. Now, in experimenting with all of these, and this is not the purest meatball, obviously, because we all add our own little touches to it. Tabasco sauce. My kids love it. One year we had an issue where I was making the meatballs and I had everything in the bowl and I had added in the Tabasco and mixed it, and one of the kids came by and added in Tabasco and mixed it, and somebody else came by and added in Tabasco and mixed it, and they were a little on the spicy side. And I'd say about 2 tablespoons for 5 pounds of meat. Now, I cut myself this morning. On the grater, I always do it. I absolutely despise it. So, I'm going to put a glove on because I have a Band-Aid and I have an open wound, and I do not want to get Tabasco in the cut on my thumb. So if I can get this thing on, I will start mixing. I also don't want to bleed into the meat. Not very pleasant for the other people who are going to be eating this, okay? You got to get your hands in there. Yes, I have the big mixer. Yes, I could do it in there. I don't like the texture when it comes out. Some things you just have to do by hand. So, I'm just going to mix this whole thing up. Okay? Just get your hands in there. Stop breaking up that meat. Get down to where those eggs are. Incorporate that whole thing. And just start squishing. You want to make sure you get a really, really homogeneous mixture. They will fall apart if you don't get them mixed right. When you put them, well, I put them in the oven. I put them in the oven because I'm making 5 pounds of hamburger. The traditional way to do this, obviously, is in a frying pan. And you just want to get a crust on the outside of them so that when you put them in the gravy, they don't fall apart. But when you're making 5 pounds of hamburger and it comes out to almost 100 meatballs, you get out the sheet pan, stick them in the oven, 350 till they're brown on the outside. I don't even know how long it takes. I just keep checking them. Start with about, 20 minutes and figure it out from there. When they look done, I take them out. So, you can see it's starting to mix up, but I've still got dry breadcrumbs. If on the bottom, I still have unmixed egg. You need this to hold together when you roll it. You don't want it to be crumbly at all. You want it to have a firm texture so that it holds the shape when you go to put it in the oven and then put it in the gravy, and you really, really don't want it to fall apart. And this is why I do it by hand. I can see it, I can feel it, it's definitely a textural thing. I just, like I said, I've done it in the mixer before. I didn't like the way it came out. I ended up mixing it some more by hand so that I could get my hands in there and see what this feels like. So, you get a workout doing this, and it's scoop and push. You scoop and push, turn the bowl, scoop it. It's almost like folding in baking, when you fold ingredients in together, when you have to put a whipped cream or a whipped egg white into another ingredient, and you don't want to flatten it. So you turn and fold and turn and fold. Okay, so the test, since I can't feel it, well, I can put my other hand in there, but I'm not going to right now. All right, meatball. Okay, holds together, doesn't come apart, will not crumble on me when I go to do this. All right. My pan. So, move this stuff out of the way because my counter is only so wide. And I'm going to go get my pan. This is a half sheet pan. I do have a full sheet pan, but it does not fit in my oven. My friend, if I can show it to you the right way, parchment paper. It keeps the meatballs from sticking to my pan, even though it's a non-stick pan. Put a layer in there. And now that I've touched everything, I'm going to wash my hands again because I'm going to get into this. Yeah, I washed the glove. Yeah. Alright, so. A little bit bigger than a golf ball. Roll, try not to over roll it because they will get tough. And then you just start lining them up. If I recall, since I posted that picture last year, I'm assuming that I'm going to have to do 2 trays of this. I do only have 1 pan this size. I need to get another one. But I haven't been back to where I got this one to get another one. So. They don't really need to be spaced. I just like to leave a little bit of room in between them. I get about, like I said, it's a half sheet pan. I get about 5 across and maybe 6 or 7 down the length of the pan. You want them all to be pretty uniform, you know, as close as you can. It's like, you know, you don't have to weigh them or anything. This is, you know, real home cooking, real rustic cooking. You just do everything by eye, by feel, by taste. It never occurred to me when I decided that I was going to do this that I was going to have to figure out how much of everything I used. You know, I've had other people ask me, how much of this do you put in there? I don't know, till it looks right, till it tastes right. It's going to be fun when I go to do the ricotta for the shells because that is definitely my taste, and I wouldn't even know where to begin. Well, I do know where to begin, but I don't know how to describe that, you know, taste. It's just right. You know, you taste it needs more cheese, you taste it needs more salt, you taste it needs more pepper, until it's the way it's supposed to be. But I will work on it, and we will come up with something. So. My oven is already on, 350. It's been on for a while. I always turn my oven on before I start, excuse me, mixing anything. It just makes sure that my oven not only has a chance to heat up, but that it is at that temperature when I go to use it. That the oven has had sufficient time to heat thoroughly. And, you know, the racks are hot. Just kind of want to get everything on the same page. It's also, as long as I turn it on before I do anything else, I know the oven's on and I'm not turning around going, oh, crud, I forgot to turn the oven on. And now I've got to wait another 20 minutes for that to heat up. So what I'll do with these is, after they're done and they cool off, I will put them in a Ziploc bag and I will drop them in the freezer. I do have room for that. I do have room for a couple of Ziploc bags in my freezer. You know, as opposed to, you know, gallon containers of gravy that will not go in there. And I'm out of room in my upstairs freezer too because that's very small. and I got it only to use it for overflow, for, you know, when I needed to put extra chicken and stuff like that in there. It's definitely not built for preparing a large meal ahead of time and keeping it until it needs to be served. I also keep my ice cream maker. I have the ice cream bowl attachment for the KitchenAid, and you have to keep the bowl frozen, so I keep that in there, and then if we want ice cream, I'm always ready to make ice cream. Which I get whined at a lot. You gonna make ice cream? Fine, make ice cream. The worst part is that I always have everything I need, milk and cream and flavorings and things like that. So I have nobody but myself to blame usually, because I have all these things in the house at all times, because you never know when I might get hungry and what I might decide to do. Tom usually loves it when I get hungry, because he becomes a beneficiary of everything that I decide to make. So, and that's one thing that I've discovered about how I approach my kitchen in these later years. You know, the kids are all grown up and moved away, and it's only me and Tom now, is that I cook for me now. I cook what I like. I cook what I want to eat. Instead of worrying about, you know, who's at football practice and who's at track practice and who's at baseball practice and where do I need to be and what's the quickest thing that I can put on the table and feed the kids. I don't have to do that anymore, so I cook for me. This is definitely something that I absolutely enjoy doing. This is one of the things I cook for me, believe it or not. And everybody else is going to be the recipient of this. Because Michelle got hungry. You and me. Looks like I might get all of these on one sheet. I wonder why I had 2 last year. I don't know. But, whatever. May have to move them a little closer together so I can get that last row in here, but like I say, they don't have to be separated. If anything, they shrink. So you can put them closer together and they shrink a little bit, just a little bit, not a lot, but they do shrink up. So I got 5. This is my 7th row, so I'm up to 35 already. Maybe get 37, 38 with what I've got left. 37. I may have to pull out that other 5 pounds. It's in the freezer right now. And do that too, because, like I said, they all fight over this, and there's been years where I have not gotten any. It's like, what do you guys do? You ate all the meatballs. So, okay, so there we go. I got 37 meatballs out of 5 pounds of burger. They're going to go in a 350 oven. And check them about 15-20 minutes. When they're brown on the outside, that's when they're ready to come out, and we'll be back. So there they are. This took about 30 minutes in the oven. They're all brown on the outside. They're kind of firm. They're ready to go. So when these completely cool off, they'll go in a Ziploc. I'll drop them in the freezer. if I was making the gravy right now, these would go from the oven directly into the gravy, and they would continue to cook down, and all that beef flavor would mixed into the entire pot of gravy. But because I made them so early, I will now freeze them, and then all I have to do is just take them out, let them thaw, and when I make the gravy, they can go in then. It's, you know, maybe I will make that other 5 pounds because I'm way ahead of schedule right now. But when these are ready to go in the pot, we'll be back so you can see how I'm doing that. Thanks. Bye.